everybody, welcome to the Wealth Advisory's Top 10 for November 2024. We are actually filming this on Halloween, as you can see from my partner's fancy shirt there. Boo, indeed. That was the best-selling album in the history of all time until Adele put one out. And then,
really?
Yeah, I think Adele took the spot from that, which is disappointing to me personally because I really, I appreciate that man's music.
I don't know. I mess with Adele.
I appreciate Adele's music too.
I'm rolling in the deep.
I'd like to hear her. I'd like to hear the other side of all those stories, though, personally too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's three sides to every story. Anyway, sorry. I'm off on a completely irrelevant tangent.
No. This is the video now.
This is it. No, this is going on for sure. But, it's Halloween, so we're excited about that. And we're also excited because we had a phenomenal performance last month. I mean, markets were up. It was a phenomenal month just to be an index investor. I think the NASDAQ was up 4.5%. Last night. It's probably down a little bit today because, as we said, markets were tanking when we were on our way in to film this. Well, not really tanking, but markets were down. But yeah, it was a great month to be an index investor. It was an even better month to be a top 10 investor. We averaged a 10% gain across our 10 stocks. That's awesome. That, for those of you doing the math, is a 100% cumulative gain across those stocks. It's pretty good. We had a bunch of double-digit winners. Two of our stocks didn't perform well, but they weren't down that much. And the rest of them way more than made up for it. We had our number 2 stock. I'm not going to mention the name because it was one of those ones that we withheld for our subscribers. But just to sort of give you an idea of how valuable that information is, that one was up 61% when I last looked and checked this morning. It was bucking the trend and it was adding up more today. So that one's been really good. I mean, $1,000 invested in that one stock would have bought you a lifetime membership to the Wealth Advisory and a steak dinner.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you might have had enough money left over for a good tip.
A good steak?
A good steak. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, this is valuable content, and I just, I know I ask every month for people to join us as full-fledged members, but I just, wanted to give you an example of exactly how valuable that membership can be. You could have paid for it a bunch of times over with just one stock pick last month. So I really hope you'll join us. As I always say, if you don't, we won't hold it against you. I mean, it might not be a great decision, seeing as how the stock picks have been performing, but we won't hold it against you, and we'll keep putting the first 4 out on YouTube for you to watch for free for as long as you want to watch it. We just ask that you subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up, if you like the video. Drop a comment if you want to drop a comment and you have questions, anything else you'd like us to cover, opposing points of view, whatever. We like it all. And definitely hit that bell to make sure that you're notified of when we put out new content. You're not going to want to miss it. And so with that, let's go ahead and get into our first 4 picks for November. We've got some pretty good ones. I'm changing mine up a little bit from last month. Yeah, we had a big run in our uranium stocks, and I just feel like they might be ripe for a pullback.
Sure.
Honestly, I could be wrong about that too. Retail investors are just really catching on to this whole nuclear future and really getting on board, and these stocks have been running for longer than I thought that they would on that. So I could be wrong, I could be right, that's a, I guess, fancy way of saying I really don't know. But I'm changing up my allocations a little bit this month because I think our nuclear stocks are due for a little bit of a pullback. I mean, they're up, hundreds of percent in a month. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're good stocks, don't get me wrong, but I think they're due for a pullback, so I think we'll have better opportunities to buy them in the future. And with that being said, let's get to my first pick, which is not that different from last month's picks, but it's a little bit. So I'm going with Barrick Gold, ticker symbol GOLD. You guys know that we are very bullish on precious metals. Precious metals do well in times of geopolitical conflict. We've got that. They do well in times of growing inflation. We've got that. I mean, inflation is shrinking, but prices are still going up, and gold is priced in U.S. dollars. U.S. dollars buy less. That means that the price of gold goes up. It keeps pace with inflation and oftentimes outpaces it. And I think the gold markets are sort of telling us something that they really don't expect that inflation is actually tamed. The Federal Reserve does look like it's going to continue to cut interest rates, not as big as the market might have thought last month. but still a 25 basis point cut coming later in November, most likely. And I think the gold markets are telling us that they think that's a bad idea, that that's going to lead to inflation rearing back up, and they're pricing for that. And gold has... The metal gold has outperformed the ticker gold so far this year, and that's how things work early on in these types of precious metal cycles. The metal performs well, and then the miners perform well later, but the miners typically perform better. So Barrick has a lot of catching up to do, so I'm probably more bullish on silver right now than gold, but I still think that gold is very, very good. So that's really just more of a statement on my bullishness on silver than anything about gold. I'm really bullish on gold. I really like Barrick's chances for outperformance this month, especially after shares pulled back a little bit because of disappointing earnings results from Pierre Newmont. Their costs are going up. Costs are going up for gold mining all around, but Barrick Gold's really good at keeping those costs down. And really good at getting that gold out of the ground. So I think that they're going to be good for outperformance. So that's my first pick. With that, let's clear the screen off and pass it over to Mr. Simpkins.
And that dovetails very nicely with the first stock that I'm going to talk about today, which is Silver Corp.
Another great one.
SVMs. We talked about gold. Now we can talk about silver. This is one we had in the top 10 last month, and it responded the way that we thought it would. We talked about gold prices going up. Silver's been lagging gold. It hasn't gone up as far or as fast as gold has, and we anticipated that we would see that gap start to close, that silver would start to make headway and pick up and get onto gold's heels, and that's exactly what it's done. Silver is up 45% in the past year, and it was up 6% in the past month. Those are silver prices. Silver Corp stock was up 12% in the past month, so it's doubled the return of silver. And we also got some good data out on it, some earnings data. Revenue up 26% in the last quarter. The amount of ore it mined rose 32%. Production of silver specifically up 4% at 1.7 million ounces. So here we have it with rising prices. We talk about, again, not just geopolitical turmoil. We're about to have an election next week. It's Halloween right now. We don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know if it's going to get resolved quickly. I think it could be a little chaotic. The last one certainly was. You kind of look at it, we might be in for a really big transition here, depending on who wins. So there's kind of a lot to look at in terms of uncertainty. There are people who are going to maybe think about bailing on higher risk assets, whether they're stocks or anything else, or small caps, and start to seek safe havens like precious metals, like gold and silver. So there's, I think, a lot of room left for this kind of precious metals bull market to run. Jason believes it. I believe it. It's already working for us, and I think it's going to continue to work. Right now we've got Silver Corp. It's trading for a little bit less than $5. I'd expect it to be up over $7 within the next 3 to 6 months. I mean, once we start to get into 2025 and the new year there, I think you're gonna see that push for this stock. Maybe a potential for a 50% gain here. So that's why I've got it here, and I think it's got a pretty bright future.
Yep, and it's really interesting. I just want to point this out about Silver Corp, our other new addition to the model portfolio as well, whose name I won't mention since it's brand new. But there's some of the very few actual pure plays on silver out there, because silver is a byproduct metal, right?
Yeah.
Silver's a byproduct of mining gold. People don't typically go out and look for silver. But I think you're going to see that change as these prices start to accelerate, or continue to accelerate, as it were. All right, and with that, let's go on to my next one, which is completely different from really anything that I usually go with. This is more up Jason's alley here. But I think it's a really good one. They just reported some great earnings, and I think that they've got some potential to keep moving this month, and it's Leidos Holdings, LDOS. Now, Leidos is one of the, I want to say top 5, but it could just be top 10 military contractors by the amount of government contracts it gets. But it's one of those contractors that most people don't really know about. If you live in Maryland, you know about them because they sponsor the Ironbird Stadium. If you really pay attention when you're going through TSA security, you know about them because they make those body scanners that you have to stand in and get scanned. Because you look suspicious or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, they make those. You may have heard of them for that, but they're more of an IT type thing. So they're more of like a background, a back end type thing. So that's why a lot of people had never heard of them. I had never heard of them when we first recommended them. I was actually just looking through a list of contractors, trying to figure out, some big people who were pulling in big contracts that weren't really pulling in big recognition, big name recognition. And Leidos jumped right out of that. It's done really well for us. It's been almost a decade in the model portfolio. It's been delivering gains ever since. But it's still, one of the bigger companies. It's still got a lot of room for growth. It just got another huge contract from the Navy and the Marine Corps, and shares jumped after a stellar earnings report. But post-earnings report announcement drift it's actually a trading strategy, PEAD. Check that out, Google it. But typically when a company surprises to the upside on earnings and surprises big like Leidos did, they continue to drift higher for the next 1 to 3 months. I think they've got some good drift going. They definitely jumped up. Their numbers were really good, and I don't think that the market's quite realized exactly how good yet. So Leidos is my second pick this month.
There we go. Yep.
All right.
It's a little fickle sometimes.
Right. I've also been doing, just while Leidos is still up on the screen, a lot of research on cybersecurity and penetration into the market. And Leidos is really big with that. The government is definitely stepping up spending and needs to step it up even bigger, to be honest, because we are woefully behind our adversaries as far as cyber warfare and cyber defense goes.
Right. Yeah.
Leidos is going to help with that.
We're definitely going to talk about that with this next pick. I mean, not so much on the cyber
great segue.
angle, but again, this is an easy one, GD.
Yeah,
General
this is a
Dynamics,
great one.
one of the big five. General Dynamics, again, one of these defense contractors, and if you've been paying any attention at all, not only just to what I do, but just to what the market's been doing over the past couple years, and what defense contractors have been returning, and where we're at, again, with the state of the world right now. And one of the big things, one of the big transitions that we're undergoing right now in this country is that the United States has shipped off so much ammunition, so many weapons platforms to allies like Ukraine and Israel in particular, that we now have to backfill that. However, what we've come to learn is that our supply chain, our manufacturing base for military equipment and for ammunition isn't what we thought it was. It's really eroded ever since the basically end of the Cold War. It just kind of atrophied as America didn't really need this kind of traditional weaponry that we see now. We weren't really fighting these traditional land wars that we now see Israel and Ukraine fighting. And so now we have to backfill this stuff. And General Dynamics is one of these companies that does it. They make the Abrams tank. They make the Stryker armored personnel carrier. They also make artillery rounds, mortar shells, bullets. So these are really important things that you need that make up, the backbone of war fighting still even in this modern age, no matter the role of drones and cyber warfare and AI and all that stuff is growing. All that kind of software and digital and satellite and space warfare is growing, but at the end of the day, you still got guys on the ground firing artillery. Mm-hmm. And that's where a company like General Dynamics is going to come in. Combat Systems reported over $2 billion in revenue, but it also took in $3.3 billion in new orders in the past quarter. That's a 1.5 bill-to-book ratio, okay? So book-to-bill ratio. So they're getting more orders than what they're currently making. The Marine Systems Unit, which makes nuclear submarines, saw revenue rise 20% to $3.6 billion. They won a $1.5 billion contract for Virginia-class submarines over the past few months. And then also their aerospace division. And again, every time I talk about defense contractors, I feel like I'm talking about them having one step in the government and being defense providers for the Pentagon, and another foot in the private sector, either in space or airlines. And in General Dynamics' case, it's the private jet business. And so that's Gulfstream private business jets. They saw revenue increase 22% to $2.4 billion. They got a new, basically, model of that Gulfstream plane coming out, and they're getting new orders for it, and that's going to get a lot of momentum going.
That's crazy. You're super wealthy. That's like the new iPhone coming out.
Yeah, they're just flying around in these jets.
I gotta get that new Gulfstream, homie.
Yeah. I mean, in any case, it all added up to a 10% increase overall in revenue for General Dynamics in the last quarter. And again, you look at the way things are trending, and I guarantee you right now the United States defense budget is approaching $900 billion. We're almost there at something like $890 somewhere around there. With the next presidential administration, regardless of who wins, you're going to see it reach $1 trillion. The defense spending is maybe the only bipartisan initiative actually left in this country. It's really the only thing both parties in this country agree on, is that we need to spend more money on defense so that we can compete with adversaries, whether it's Russia or China or Iran. And, that's none of that short-term or long-term catalyst-wise is going anywhere in the next year.
Yep, all very good points there. Very good points. And that was something that really surprised me, and probably a lot of people, about the war in Ukraine, was the use of artillery.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You think about, they probably want lots of drones and they want the Patriot missile system. And yeah, sure, they do want that stuff. And actually, Ukraine's been manufacturing their own drones, which are super impressive. But artillery shells, they're like, we need more shells.
Yes.
And nobody thought that. Everybody's like, oh, that's World War II, man. Who uses that stuff anymore? Like, granddad? No, come on.
That's been the biggest discrepancy. I mean, what really saved Ukraine early on, aside from it having Western munitions, specifically like the Javelin and Stinger missiles and stuff like that, and better tactics and improved leadership with the United States helping there, it was that they had an advantage in drones that Russia didn't. The main advantage Russia has is that it has a much larger manufacturing base than Ukraine, and it has tilted its economy into a fully wartime economy.
Yep.
And the reality is that not Ukraine, and it doesn't seem like the United States can keep up with the amount of production that Russia has for these traditional munitions that are really determining who holds the lines and who holds those front lines. But you've seen it bogged down at times, even into trench warfare out there. It's, like I said, there's a lot of evolving technology. There's AI, there's drones and autonomous platforms and all this kind of new stuff emerging. But at the same time, a lot of times it just comes down to guys blowing other guys up on the ground.
Yeah.
And, that's still the reality of modern warfare.
Yep, it is. It is. And I think that surprised a lot of people. But, I don't think it surprised our contractors, fortunately.
No.
All right, and so that wraps up our first four. So let's go ahead and do a little recap here for the folks watching on YouTube, and then we're going to get into our top six for the folks who are watching as members on the members-only website. So here we go. Number 10, Barrick Gold Corporation, ticker symbol GOLD. We're bullish on gold. We're bullish on silver. There's just a lot of tailwinds for them, and Barrick has some catching up to do with the price of gold. So it's got a good shot for outperformance this month.
Yeah, there's gold's little buddy, silver. You're just picking up the slack, coming in, like closing the gap. Like I said, silver's up 12% the past month, 45% the past year. I think you're going to see that trajectory continue.
Yep. And next up, Leidos Holdings. I like Leidos, one, because it just had a blowout earnings report. Stock's up from that. It's probably going to drift higher. Also, just in the long run, it's going to get a lot more contracts. It just grabbed another one. I want to say it was $92 or $93 billion. These aren't small contracts. And it's going to keep getting those as the U.S. continues to spend more on defense and beef up its cyber warfare and cyber defense departments.
And then General Dynamics, booking tons of work, a lot of it traditional for the Pentagon, and that's going to continue. Like we said, whether it's bullets, guns, tanks, personnel carriers, all that stuff is still very pertinent, and we now need to backfill it because we have shipped so much off to Israel and Ukraine.
And on top of that, Taylor Swift probably needs a new private jet.
So Gulfstream is going to be for her.
Love that. I think we've got a really good first four set of picks for you guys. Honestly, this is going to make people some money this month, I'm pretty sure. And if it does, hey, use some of it to get a full subscription to the Wealth Advisory. Like, become a full member. I really think you should. Jason thinks you should. All the other members do. It's really worth it. So with that, we're going to leave you guys who are watching on YouTube. Happy Halloween. Happy Thanksgiving, because that'll be past by the time we're back in your faces. Have a great month, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So just remember, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, drop us a comment, and hit that bell to make sure you get notified when the next one comes out. And we'll see you next month. Take care.